Hello, everyone, and welcome to my new show, Out of Nowhere. The new show's been going about 3 months now, 4 months. Been doing podcasts for about 10 years. Started on Blog Talk Radio, and then I went on Beacon of Light Radio, and now I'm doing the shows on my own. I find it very interesting because if anything goes wrong, you can do it immediately, sort it out yourself. Well, my guest today is Mercedes Lucky Benedict. She's a podcaster, paranormal, supernatural, remote viewer, does frequency healing, uh, does lots of different things, but all will be revealed on the show today.
Ooh,
Can
it's
we
so
please welcome Mercedes to the show? Hello
thank
there.
you. Hello there, and thank you so much for that awesome intro. And you said my name correctly and everything. That's amazing.
I like that. I like that. When I was looking a bit about you, you've had lots of things happening in your property.
Yeah, yeah.
You've had experience of some incredible, profound spiritual phenomena. Can you
Hmm.
tell us how you got into the paranormal, and then we'll talk about your property, your house.
Thank you. Yes. Well, it's not like I got into it. It got into me. It like I wasn't planning on this at all. So it just kind of like happened to me. Just I guess it what I think of it as being the path. It became my path. It started really accidentally in a way with these car accidents that I was in. And it was at a time in my life when it was really not a very good time in my life. But instead of dying in this car accident, two of them back to back, I didn't die, but I was given this gift. I didn't even realize it at the time, but it just started immediately. That I would just be around people and I could see in their bodies. I literally, and I could feel I could feel their pain. I could see where their pain was. And I
Oh,
was in a tremendous amount of pain with the accidents. And I was in a tremendous amount of pain in my life at that time. But these accidents literally catapulted my life into a completely different realm of my life. And I ended up getting treatments from a doctor that I'd actually really just been at their property playing music with because I was a musician, singer, songwriter, and I had no idea what was about to happen. So it ended up that he took me kind of under his wing and helped to heal me. And he was so in tune, he could see and understand what I was experiencing as I was healing, but after the first accident. So that is when the remote viewing or the that type of thing began. The paranormal began with me. I did not realize it at the time, but I mean, I knew that I had always been interested in the paranormal and spiritual aspects, um, but it was not my life. And so that changed. The whole thing changed. I ended up going through another near death accident 4 months later where I should have died. My son should have died, but we didn't. And he was actually given some gifts at that time too. And so together, while he was little, I worked to try to understand what was happening. But then I also started to work more with people. Um, and I went to work for this doctor that had helped me. So through the 14 plus years that I was with this doctor, Dr. Steve Swidler, I honed my abilities under his, watch. But I worked with people from all over this world, all over the planet. People would come to our office to get him to work on them. And I was his therapist. I was the person that worked on the people, and he would work on the people, but I would work on the people. And so that through those times, that is when I started to really see inside the body. I'd start to see their bodies and work with their bodies and their spirit and energies and all kinds of frequencies. And I learned, and it all was happening to me. I was healed through all of this. I began to help others with their pain, and I began to help others take away their pain through remote viewing. It took me several years to actually feel like I was good enough to do
Mm.
it, to do remote viewing outside of like an actual contact with a person, like with them right there, because it would just happen, Bob. It wasn't like I asked for it. It just started to happen. Like I would just be working on somebody, and then all of a sudden I would see things, or I would get a message that this person should have this person should do this herb. And then I would stop and I would go look up the herb, or I'd stop and go look up this message, and they were always correct and they matched the person. So as that went on, that's how I just began my whole career of that. And it was a long, long career. It lasted all the way. It's still happening. I mean, I still work on people, but with the doctor, we closed down during the pandemic, which was horrible to me.
Mm.
And because I was like, that was like, I was going full blown ahead, where I was doing everything, and then it was just like stopped. And so as the world stopped, right? So that is really where the rest of my life took off again. I before that was a musician, actress, singer, songwriter. I had my band. I had several bands. I did my music. I sang all over. We did concerts and shows, and that life was interrupted at one point, and then I began this new life again after my series of 14 years with Dr. Swidler. And so then it was like I was meant to like stop and then recreate my life. And then that's when all the other stuff came back. It was like I went full circle. I
Do
was
you
able
think?
to come
Do you
back
think?
into all of it,
Do you
you
think
know?
when you had these accidents, you were
Yeah.
saved by someone or some being, for either could be from another planet or whatever, to give you these frequencies, these healing healing people? That gift is a great gift. I know somebody who was in an accident and he got saved by by an alien, and he could do anything with his hands then. That's going back quite a few years ago. And what a great bloke he was. Strange at times, but things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And that's why they give you to help human beings around the world.
Right. I do believe that that was the path that led me to God. I know that it was extraordinary. I saw my first angel that the first night of the first accident, and I was fortunate because I had this first accident, and then I was asked just to come over to Dr. Swidler's office after the accident, and he had this table which I worked with for
Yeah.
all those years. It was called a percussion table. So literally now percussion is really like it's made its way into the forefront of of holistic healing,
Frequency.
percussion. But this percussion table would percuss, and the patient lies on this table, and the body unwinds through energy and through physical. And so that's how I would work with people every day, was on this table. But the very first time I ever experienced this table, I was after my accident. He helped me, worked on me. Cranial sacral work is what I also do. And
Yeah.
I was on this table. So when I went home afterwards, I was laying there, and it was like I could still feel this vibration happening all around me. And that's when I saw this little tiny dot up above my head while I'm laying there, and I couldn't go to sleep. And as it got closer to me, it was a tiny little angel. I mean, a real angel. Like, I couldn't believe it. And I was like, what in the world? I mean, I'm wide awake. And then all of a sudden, I felt this whole, it was like, like a swarm of bees, like a
Yeah.
swarm of bees. I felt like I had a swarm of black bees in me. And I felt like all of it started to out of me. And I was in shock. I mean, I was awake. I was like, what in the world is happening to me? And all of it was like this energy that had been stuck in me for, and some bad stuff that I had also been experiencing was stuck in me. And through that table, through that percussion, through that accident and that clearing, what was happening was all of it was jolted out of me. And the little angel came to show me first, the angel, right? And so it was through that, that was my very first like major experience, and it just kept going on from there. I mean, it really did. I've seen some amazing things. And so when we talk about what happened on the property, let's say that I moved here, and now when I look at my Facebook, it's really easy to see because I started posting right away as these events happen. I kept a record of everything, and I shared everything that was happening to people and people I worked with, so they all knew I had come to live out here on our property in Avra Valley, Arizona, in Marana, Arizona, in a little valley called Avra.
Can
Avra
can I
Valley.
just before
Okay.
we move on to that, there's a question from Alison. Do you
Okay. Cool.
believe God is in heaven or something in the universe? Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for that question. I believe God is in heaven, but I believe God is within us at all times and really needs us to ask for help, or really needs us to communicate and do our prayers and things like that. And I was, trust me, I was that day, especially because I almost died. I literally, from that accident, I couldn't walk. So that was a horrible accident. I lost my house. I couldn't walk. The doctors just let me go and said basically they took their money, and I don't talk bad about doctors, but that's what happened. They just basically took the money I had, and they didn't heal me. I was I couldn't finish my school where I was being a massage therapist. It was a horrible time in my life, and I was asking for help. And that, so to answer your question, I believe that through my experience now, what has happened on this property, um, God is right there with us. I'm losing my voice. God is with us. And then, but I also believe that there are others that are helpers that have helped me through all of this. I have experienced the other worlds of the beings from, the stars and different things. I believe that we are all together working through this um, different realms, is what I believe. But I totally believe in God. My life has been changed. And right now, I'm actually working with Archbishop Ronald Enright. God just sent me this. So I actually work with this team of exorcists.
Right.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I definitely believe in what I have experienced. So that was a great question. Thank you. I hope I answered it correctly for him,
Yeah,
for
I'm
her.
sure you have done. Alison will get back to us anyway. Yeah, so when you move on to about your property, things, so much were happening in your property. Can you
Mhm.
just tell us a little bit more about what happened to you in your property?
Yeah. So it's been 9 years ago that I came here, and um, I had not really come here too much before. I was dating my now husband, and it was I was in Tucson, so he would come and see me, and I really wasn't seeing coming out to the property. But I did know that right when I started to see Joe, I started seeing spirits on him. And it became something that was part of what I did, was to help clear these things off of him, and they weren't good. He actually worked for a haunted company at that time, a haunted attraction company for a long
Oh,
time. He was part of that as their he was a one of the owners, and so that's how we kind of met, and we met at my work. But when I started coming out here on this property, that's when things started happening in our relationship that were like we were doing good up till that point, but it was almost like they didn't want me out here. But I knew that the second I started driving down the road to come here the first day, I'm like, I have been here. I know this place. I felt at home right away. I I I was like, this was so mysterious to me. And so it began with small things like the keys would be missing, which I've had that happen before.
hmm.
The just different things, you would hear voices. You would something would be said that would upset one of us. You know, it just was started out little like that. And then then I started to see them. Once I moved in, which was 6 months later, which would have been right around this time in August, 9 years ago. And when I did that, that's when really things started shifting. I started to see the like shadow beings. I started to ask like, what is going on? And at that time, it was mainly me. Joe was not really in tune with what was happening
No.
out here. And so it was almost like for many years I felt like I was up against like this is me only, them seeing I'm seeing it, and trying to figure it out. So right away I began to research and try to find out what is happening. It ends up that this property, we are right in the midst of so much history. We are in between the copper mines, the mountains that they did mining. We're in a valley that was once a thriving Hohokam village from years and years ago, you know, long thousands of years ago. We're in this valley, and then we're in the center of all these spiritual places, like where these communities were. That things were very. It was like really a big thing. So in a way, we're like right in the middle. We're in center. We're in the center of it all, and so it was the visuals I was seeing was Native Americans. And at that time we didn't have our property fenced. It wasn't my property either. I was just living here, right? So there was a thing about like if I would try to make a spirit go, or we try to do cleansings on
Yeah.
the property, because I was learning how to do all of that. There would be a backlash at us if we tried to dig or plant or anything build. We Horrible things would start happening to us. Our dogs would get sick. The cars would all break. I mean, it sounds like, oh, that's normal for everybody, but no, it was so apparent what was happening. It was, and plus I could see them. Okay, I could see them. So then it's like me seeing them, but Joe couldn't. And so we had people that started to help us that I knew, and Joe knew, that would come out to help us cleanse this property, shaman, some medicine men and women. And we
Mm.
learned how to do this crystals on the property grids. At one time I saw this huge grid of a circle. I just saw the whole thing where if we made a grid a certain way, then our property would be protected. I saw the lights. And so we would run these lights all around our property, energy lights through these
Yeah.
crystals. And so it went on and on and on. And until it really started getting really bad. And that's when I started to reach out to get help when it got really bad. I started to become very sick. And I could tell that it was them. It was me being very sick. Like I could feel them. They would come at night in my dreams, and I would and you could I would be experiencing them. I would be right here with them in my dreams, and then I would be waking up screaming. and Joe would wake up to me screaming. I mean, this
Oh
happened every
God.
night. When it got like from 2018, 2019, it had become like a war with me. And so that's how, bad it was. My horses, I could see these black entities, and I'm a drawer, so I sketch. So I immediately, once I started to do this type of work, I felt compelled to draw things for my clients. So I would draw and sketch the body, or what I saw in the body, what energies I saw, if there was something I saw in the room, or whatever, something in their life, something from their life as a child. I would see these images and draw them to verify what happened in their life. So I was used to drawing, and that's what I did. So I would draw. If I saw a portal in the ground, or where I saw the portals in the ground, I'd draw them and map it out so I could keep that and know where those portals were.
Yes.
So that way, if anybody else came, I wouldn't tell them what I saw or what I drew, but we would wait until they went ahead and said it too. And we're like, well, that's very interesting. We'd show them the evidence. That's how we always did it. We made sure I didn't give out everything. I wasn't on media then. I was working for a doctor most of this time. And so we were very private. I did share as I did get on the social media, but I didn't share everything. I just
No.
shared some things, and I'm really glad I did that. I didn't have a lot of people on my Facebook. It was mainly family and very few friends at that time. So it wasn't like I was sharing all this stuff to all these
No.
people.
That's good.
It was just a few close people at that time. And so we had I called it the haunted car. The first night I got this car, we brought it home. It was like the people that we got it from were like really not good. But we went ahead and got it. And the energy that they had obviously was in this car. And I remember driving back, like, and the steering wheel just started to like break from Phoenix to here. And so I had to stop and get, it was too late. We'd already bought the car, right? And so
Oh my
by
God.
the time I got home in that car, Joe was, he said, okay. So he kind of adjusted it. I'm like, this is so strange. What is happening? And so when I got home and I'm in our house, I see this dark shadow man in the back seat. And I'm like, oh my God, like it was in that car and it came to the property too. Or unless it's the same shadow man that was always here he'd morph into different people. We were on the Dead Files in 2020. And that we were the season finale of the Dead Files. And that pretty much shares a lot of the horrible stuff that we went through. In fact, I hardly can watch it because it's just really hard to watch
I
us
can
at that.
imagine so as well.
Yeah, it's really, really hard for me to watch. And I was very sick. Like, after they left, they came in here in November, and all of the, um, you're preparing for Amy's walk, and I tried like 3 years. I'd submitted to this show just to see. The first year, it didn't go through at all. No, the first year Joe said no, absolutely not. The second year things kept happening, so I tried to submit this, and the nobody could get it to go through at the house, at work. Friends tried to help me submit it. It would never go through.
No.
Then on the third and final year, um, we always had terrible things happening on our anniversary month. So in February, things would just horrible things would be happening, and it went through. And so they actually, and I let it go, but they actually called us out of the thousands of people that they get calls from. They ended up picking us. And so when they came out that first night to do this walk, we had the flood of the century out here, and all the cars, and Amy even said that this is they all said this is trying to stop this, what was happening. It just was mainly our roads, like not so much in the outside of these country roads, but our roads, our land, our little area, just little
Yeah.
tiny area. And so all of their cars were flooded, they were totaled. Joe had to come pull them out and rescue all of them out, get them out of their cars.
Oh,
And so it was like they didn't mention that in the show, but I took
no.
video of it like throughout the days as the cars were still here for like 10 days. So that was really amazing what happened. I do highly respect them and their team because they could have walked away then. They had another scheduled person after us, another last one, and then they were going on their Thanksgiving break. But they didn't, Bob. They actually decided to stay. And so they stayed and helped us another week and went over their time. And I will always be so thankful for what they did. And they verified, they validated what was happening here all those years. And so for me, that was the greatest thing of all, to be able to actually have her come here. And they did the police investigation, and the police investigation showed these there's things that we didn't know. We didn't know that a plane had with all these men on the Pony 12 disintegrated over our property. We didn't know that. I would see army men. I would see people in army clothes. I could hear them walking in the house, or heavy boots. And I could other people had seen in their visuals army people. And so that was what they were. They were Air Force. They were special ops. And they literally disintegrated, blew up. They said it was over our property. But as I continued to investigate, I found out that wasn't the truth. It was very close to our property, like very close to our property. And I'm sure in the air, when they disintegrated, it did go all through the property, but it wasn't like it was just right over our head. And it took me about 4 years. No, it took me 2 more years to actually find out where they really were, where it happened. There was another double murder homicide that happened that was actually a part of what I was seeing and we were experiencing. And that had happened on the properties. All these lands used to belong to like certain families. And that's one of the things I learned, was that the history is still very much alive everywhere. And the family in spirit that owned these properties, or these spiritual beings that were connected, these connections went all the way through to years and years ago when the Spanish arrived here. So our land ended up being a connection between Native American spiritualism on this land and what happened, and also with the connection of Santeria and the connection from Hispanic, um, you know, black magic.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there, and so that's why, and all the other things. There's so many other things. There was wars happening here. I found out later there was a real war on this area called the Pima War and the Pima Revolt. And what happened is I ended up making, as I kept progressing through all this, I did just finally complete, like this week, my documentary is actually complete, and it will be ready for the next process. It's taken a few years, and I do have this documentary now on what happened. It's going to be a series of what's happened, but there are people that I found as I went to find answers. I found other people that had experienced the same things we were experiencing. And some of the things that we experienced also have to do with UFOs. We are right in a place where there are UFOs activity, and there has been. We're not just the only ones that have noticed it.
Right. Alison's got a question here. Many people believe prayer has saved them with extreme fear, i.e., Bigfoot, dogmen. When mentioned either God or Jesus, what do you think about that?
Oh, that's a good question. I always, in my prayers now, after what happened to us, I always do the Lord's Prayer. In fact, we do the Lord's Prayer, right when we come to our property, we stop and do it. When we do the Lord's Prayer before we go into our house. All of us do that here that are on this property. That is our standard procedure. I also believe that the connection between the dogmen and my favorite documentary series is called Small Town Monsters. Not Allison and Bob. I don't know if you've ever seen this series,
Yeah,
but
yes, I have.
oh
Yeah.
my God, I love that series. And so the Dogman phenomena, I just recently watched one that I was given for my birthday or something, or Christmas. And it actually had to do with New Mexico. And they actually got to talk to these real people that had experienced it, but they're the people that Native Americans, and they talk about how they're not supposed to talk about it, because you can never find a lot of information out there on the tribes talking about this. They've been told not to. They don't want to talk about it. But these people actually talked about it because they feel like with what's happening in our world today, right now in our world today, that they need to share this to people. And so that's why they actually spoke. So it's a really great documentary, and you'll have to look it up. I can't remember the name of it, but it was in New Mexico. I know that. And what I believe as far as the prayers go with them, I believe that they can travel, and they actually have a footage of this thing where all of a sudden they had cameras on their property, and this a wolf or a dog man appears, and it's just out of nowhere, like out of a portal, and they catch it. It was the most fascinating visual, and I'm like, oh my God, that's kind of what I see, how they work through things,
Yeah.
right? So as far as the prayers go, I think that the Lord's Prayer is a big prayer. I think that a lot of things are everything I do to remove them, if they come to me that I can tell that they're not good, I start with that. And I also start, and they always back up. They always back up. I can't explain it, but it's amazing. I didn't know that before. I was working in a holistic environment, and I was spiritual. I was like Blessed Mother Earth and all my spirit animals, and I was really, that was my
Yeah.
practice, and that worked, and I love that practice. So I've learned how to incorporate it now, because I first, like, to answer Allison's question, before I wouldn't have said the Lord's Prayer, and I was having way more activity then, but I was learning. It was my learning time, how to
Yeah.
deal with what was happening, right? But there are, I don't know, Bob, what do you think about that? What do you think about that, the prayers?
Well, I think it's a great thing, asking for help. I know years and years ago, I went to Spain and I got bitten on the back of my leg. Didn't realise, flew back home. All of a sudden, my leg swelled twice in size. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do here? So I went straight to hospital. They said it's not a blood clot, but we don't know what's bitten you, but we're going to have to see to it. And it took quite a while, but the pain was so intense. I asked for help. I used to do breathing exercises, and it took the pain away. And
Oh, well,
I asked the Lord to help me as well to take the pain away, and He did.
yeah,
It took about 4 months for the hole to heal up. So when
wow,
people, old ladies or old men say, I've got an ulcer on the back of my leg," I know how they feel now. It's it's hard work. It's They won't know what to do. So it's good job that there's people out there who can go and see to them and give them some healing,
yeah,
like you with sound healing, vibration.
yeah.
I think it's a great tool, that is.
Yeah, and I love what you just said too, because where were you when that happened? When your leg, were you somewhere in particular when that happened?
Water. I was walking by some rocks in water. We were playing with a frisbee, four of us, and it was quite an expensive one. It was about £50 then. I mean, I'm going back 20 years. It's a lot of money then. Probably about, I don't know, $100 then, or $150. And we
Wow.
and it whizzed into sea, and we thought, oh God, and it sank. So we were all looking for it. I never thought I got beaten, never thought. And it was 2 days later,
Wow.
I'd flown back
Wow.
home, sat in a chair, and I thought, oh, something wrong with my back of my leg. And by 3 hours later, it doubled in size.
Wow. You know
And the
what? That
spot, and the
you're just
spot,
lucky.
yeah, and the spot where it was, it got septic. So it was quite a bad thing, really. So, I always thank the Lord for that. Say, thank you for helping me out
Yeah.
and taking the pain away. You know,
It
it's amazing, really. I know
yeah.
Alison's in the chat room said, remember you telling me that, Bob? I always tell her that as well. There's another question here from Rebecca. It says, what are your thoughts on us choosing our human experiences in order for us to grow spirituality? We choose our paths. Do we choose our paths?
Could you say that again?
What are your thoughts on us choosing our human experiences in order us to grow spiritually? Do we choose our paths?
Oh, that's a great question. That was really on my mind the last few days too about wow, how did things actually happen? Had they not happened the way they did, I wouldn't be here with doing what I'm doing today. So I believe that we now what I believe and what I do help people with, especially before the pandemic, I had this commercial out that was like, you know, it was about the cobwebs in your life. Like, let's release those cobwebs, like the cobwebs that stop us from being the person we're supposed to be. We get so um we have this thing, we have things that we're supposed to do, all of us, especially some of us, which is a lot of people. There are things you're supposed to do. You have a mission in your life. It could be a very
Yes.
simple mission. I mean, it could be a little mission like just a, take bring a lot of joy to children and teach children. That could be a big mission for people. Things like that. Helping animals or just whatever is your mission. It could be all kinds of things. But I was so focused for myself on my music and acting and but I was so focused that I wasn't seeing any other pictures, and I would have never found this life had the accidents not happened, had trauma not happened, had horrible things not happened that catapulted me into this new life. So to answer the question, I think that we have free will choice. I think that each person needs to, once they usually experience some sort of trauma, they usually do ask for help because they're lost, or like if you're on drugs and your mind is like messed up, or you're so depressed that you're drinking every single night, like even if it's 2 glasses of wine,
True,
you're
true.
you're trying, yeah, you're trying to you're trying to soothe your emotions. You're trying to kind of buffer pain. Well, pain is how you actually change. Pain a lot of times can really make us change. And so with that said, even if you don't have pain, you can change your life by realizing what it is you want to do and going with the things that bring you the most joy and that bring you fulfillment in your life. And they are good things. They are the high frequency things that are really the best for you. And sometimes you have to clean up your act. And when you do clean up your act, you move to a different level. It's like video
True.
games. When you're playing a video game, you keep getting knocked on the head by Mario or whoever. I don't really play that many video games, but I know my kids did. And but I saw what was happening. You go through the level, go through the level, go through the level, and then finally you get out of that level. And I believe that that's how it really works well in with God, or spirit world or spirit realms. The more we do to create a better us, the more great things come. But also, the more great things come, the more challenges come. So it's really always a challenge, but there's moments when it's so blissful and so amazing. Like right now, this is an amazing moment in time right now. And the so I believe that prayer opens doors. I believe, and I was using prayer before, and I was a manifester before any of this. I could manifest things. I could manifest agents. I could manifest gigs. I could manifest things in my life. And I thought I understood all that. I thought that was how it was, and that's the best way. I wasn't using prayer. I wasn't doing any of that until all of a sudden I was like almost going to die, or there was a time I wanted to kill myself. That's how bad it was. This was
Oh,
before,
God.
yeah, this was before the accident. This was before the accident and even after the accident. There were two times in my life where it was that bad for me. That the accidents, they really should have, in a way, that's what I wanted. I wanted to die at that time. And so I wasn't supposed to die. I wasn't
No.
supposed to die. And so I know that now. And I knew it then too, because when that happened, I felt the first one. I'm like, it was so shocking. And it was all trauma. But the second one, I had kind of moved through phases of healing by then. And I felt this cocoon come over me, and I felt God. I felt my son and I were in as we were rolling in the car on the dust highway after a dust storm. I lost control of my car on the highway, and we were just rolling and crashing and roll. We didn't hit anybody, thank God. There was people, there's cars everywhere. We crashed that way. The car was totaled. But the whole time when I let go of the steering wheel, because I thought we're dead, I thought we're dead. I felt this cocoon come over me. So when things like that happen to you, there's no other way. There's something more than us. There was too many things that were happening to me that they were not of this world. They were not of the world. They were of God. They were of this high frequency. So I believe that we are all supposed to go through our phases, but the more we do our prayers, the more we continue that path, the better we get and the happier we get.
Totally true, that is as well. When you're talking about drinking, it gives memories back to me when, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, I used to go out every night, just got drunk and drunk and drunk. And it came to and I went to sauna once, and this lady came and one year she said, my partner's died, my husband's died. And she said, can you help me? I said, yeah, of course I will. Yeah. She said, um, I'd like to have a message from him. I said, I'll tell you what to do. I said, there's a spiritual church in Briglington. I will take you. I'll arrange to meet you. We'll go in together. You sit at one side and I'll sit at the other side. And if you get a message, and I was hoping she did do, and she did, and that changed my life. Really, just taking her there, and then it stopped me drinking.
Wow, it stopped your drinking.
Yeah,
It just
didn't
changed.
bother me. And I haven't had a drink for about 25 years now.
Wow. That
I
is
do,
one.
something, and it doesn't bother me, because I do a podcast twice a week. You meet people, you go to conferences, meet other people there. A lot of the girls in the chat room have all been to conferences, so I always meet them there when we go to a conference. So it's nice, and they come here to Briglington to go out and paranormal and look for UFOs or Bigfoot or werewolves. So it's quite nice. But and I always said to these people who were in the chat room, we were, we were meant to meet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it does change your life. And I
Yeah.
think, I probably had in my previous life, I probably drank as well. But when you
Yeah.
come again, with no booze at all, it'd be finished. You'd be a different person.
Yeah.
Um, I might be a woman when I come back. I might be a man. I don't
Right.
know. Might be an
Right.
animal.
Right.
But
There's so
I think
much.
you learn your lesson, and
Yeah.
hopefully you can teach other people um, how not going out every night, making a fool of yourself. Um it's not a good thing.
No. And I think that's where I was at that time too. And it was like, God was like, what? Or, they're like, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So sometimes people like myself are very hard headed and aren't listening, or you're just not listening. And so it takes something like what happened to you, which was miraculous, and something that happened to me, which was miraculous. And I got to say that, I don't think one of my clients from California, I just love this guy, and he it's a lesson for me because I the messages come, the things are happening, but you can see that the person really really wants to control this. They want it to happen here. They want this to be. They want that spirit to move. They want God to do this in their life. They want and it's like that. I mean, to me, that's not what happened to me. It all just I was just trying to be on my path and do the prayers, and things would
Yeah,
happen. And it wasn't like I set a date or pushed a date for things. I know you can do that, and I know you can ask, prayers like, for this kind of a time frame, and that does work too. But I think that it's all about us letting go and letting God. I've written a song called that, Letting Go. It's called Let It Go. I've written two songs. One was Let It Go, and that was about my relationship with Joe and all the pain that we experience. And I could see these lifetimes of he and I together. Now, I do believe in past lives. I do, because I see them and I go to them. And there's just absolutely no way that I just know it's what it is, because things come back, and I can and then when you see those things, then they can be cleared, and then that person's pain is gone. It's like, like what happened with you with the pain. Like there's there's no other explanation for what happened. The pain was gone. You asked for help. The pain was gone. There's that is that is the answer. It worked. They can take pain away. They can heal us. We can heal areas of our body. So it's really a beautiful thing. The closer you get into that realm of this life, the more miraculous things happen. So one
when
of
you're
the things,
saying that, hey, when you're saying that, I think I said it on the last show as well. I went to see a psychic surgeon.
yes, that's kind of the work I do in a way. Yes.
What a great guy he was. He's just a normal person. He works on roads. And I went to see him. His wife's a psychic medium, and I know her anyway. Like she said, I said I could do some healing on my knees and my hips. She said, "Well, why don't you come over?" I said, "Well, I can't drive, but I'll have to fetch a friend with me." She said, "That's no problem. They can have some healing as well." And I walked in. Anyway, said, "My name's John." I went, "Oh, nice to meet you." And he sat down, and then I was talking to Sue, and she said he's going to meditation now. Anyway, all of a sudden he came out. He said, "Oh, my name's Dr. Tony." I went, "Oh, lovely, nice to meet you." He said, "I would like you to sit on the side of the bed there on the couch." And I went, "Oh, okay." And I just want to go into your back a minute. And he did that, and he laid down. He went into my knees and everything. And it was only after about, I don't know, 10 minutes. Stand up now. I went and stood up. I thought, oh my God. Felt 10 times better with
Yeah.
him just touching me. I could feel the energy going through my body.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it quite a while, but he wants to expand his business and everything. And I went, well, if you ever, I'll give you a review anyway. No problem. I'll write you something. But it proves that there's people out there what are sent to help people in all walks of life.
Yeah.
And I said, how much do it cost? He went, nothing.
Yeah.
I just want to give you this. He said, because there's another guy in this town. Oh, that's his area. But what he'd done, he rang him up and said, "Look, a friend of mine's coming over, Bob. I'm giving some healing. I'm just going to tell you because I don't want people saying that I'm treading on your ground." I thought
Right.
it was a nice thing. He was covered in his back anyway. He said nothing. That's
Wow.
fine.
Yeah. I mean, that's good too, because sometimes, it's a gift. So it's a gift that we're supposed to give to people,
I could
and not,
understand. I could understand if he wasn't working or anything.
yeah,
I would say, here, I'm not bothered
yeah,
how much it costs. If you can take that pain away,
yeah,
I'll give you anything,
yeah.
basically.
And that's what happens. Like when pain does go, people are just like, wow. I mean, how did that? I mean, and I know because I know what pain is. I know what pain is. I know when pain's
Yes.
here, pain is left, and how it destroyed my life, but how my life came back. So I literally understand people and their pain in all ways. So, and especially I love this, what you're saying. I think this is so cool. I knew you were, as I watched some of your shows now, like four, I think now. So I knew who I would be speaking with. So I think it's really amazing what you're actually doing and sharing other people that help others, or just their insights on things. I think it's really cool what you're doing as
It's
well.
funny that they talked about apps and healing in the chat room. You can do that. I send healing thoughts out to lots of people,
Yeah,
usually about 10 o'clock at night before I go to sleep. I say, I just relax for a bit and then just say, I want to send some healing to all these people who I know who's having problems in their life. It might be marriage problems, it might be pain in other ways, they're having problems with the children. But I want to send you lots of healing to all of you.
yeah,
I want you to and receive it, and you will feel a bit different in the morning. And
yeah,
many a time I'll say, "How do you feel today?" "Oh, I feel great." "All right."
yeah.
I didn't tell them that I sent them healing. But yeah, I think it's a great thing is absent healing.
I
All of
love
us
that.
should do it.
Yeah, if we would spend more time doing that, our world would be a better place. Like if we really focused on that type of thing every single night, like we do our prayers every single night. Joe and I do. We do a deliverance prayer that we learned from Bill Bean. First, we start with our Lord's Prayer. Then we do a whole prayer that goes through all kinds of series of things, so we're good. And then we start doing prayers for others. So every night we do that, and I believe that, and even during the day too. So I believe that's amazing to do that for others. One thing I want to say is, like, to maybe help people understand. You may have already covered this, Bob, but I look at it. I think of it as when you have a thought, and this could be good thoughts, bad thoughts, whatever, that thought goes right to whoever you're thinking about. Like it, and so what some of the things that were when I was getting cleared, I also learned about Ho'oponopono. I trained in that about 4 years. I started hearing about it, Ho'oponopono. One of my patients was just all of a sudden opened her mouth up on the table one day and started talking about Ho'oponopono. So I'm like, what's that? I've never heard of this. And so
Tell us
I
a
started,
little. I'm going to say, tell us a little bit about
oh,
that.
that
The
is that, yeah. So and that was like one of those things. It's like what, and it's like that was a spirit, telling me something through this lady's mouth, who just was sitting there quiet, and all of a sudden she starts talking like she's supposed to tell me about this therapist that was in Hawaii, and his name was God, I hate it when I forget names. Dr. Hugh, Dr. Hugh Lennon, or Hugh Lynn. And she started telling me that this Dr. Hugh Lynn was hired to go to a mental facility of the worst cases of bad, terrible things that people were doing in this mental facility, that they were all put there because they were really bad and really dangerous. So they were having a lot of trouble with this, and they asked him to come help. So what he did was he sat in his office, and he went over every single person on their files. And you can look this up online. He's online. Everything's online. All the stories, the books. So he's the doctor, and he's looking at these files. And what he does is he does Ho'oponopono, which is he goes through the family history. There's a prayer, and I'll do it in a minute. But
Yeah.
there's a prayer you do, and then that prayer, it goes. Back in the old days, the kahunas, if there was a problem in their family, they would go to the kahuna, and the kahuna would work on the lives and the lifetimes of pain throughout the family. So that it's really a family lineage and what is happening to that family. So what he would do, Dr. Hugh Lin, is he would go and read these files. He'd never make contact with any of the people in the thing. He just did that every day on these people that were patients. And every single week, the people started healing and started changing. These were dangerous people, to where all of a sudden it was like within, I think it said within a year, I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure, but it was a short amount of time, a year or 2 years, they shut the facility down because all the people were healed. They were
Oh,
all healed. And so, and it's all documented. And so, what it was, and then he actually was working with the kahuna, and then he did that. And so he started to write books and started to teach people this, and it's huge. But the deal is like, that's what happened. This lady's talking about that. It was a seed planted for me. And I went home and I started looking up, what is this? And I got the book that he wrote, and I immediately got my intake from spirit that I am supposed to go and find out about the person he learned from, the kahuna he learned from, and what was she doing? What was that? And so that was the right thing, because my spirit was guiding me. And that I found out that she used a certain prayer, and that's the prayer I used. And it goes like this. So whoever's listening, so divine creator, Father, Mother, Son is one. If I, my family, relatives, or ancestors have offended you, your family, relatives, or ancestors through thoughts, words, deeds, or actions, then I ask for forgiveness. Cleanse. Oh, we ask for forgiveness. Let this cleanse, release, remove all unwanted energies. Um, Throughout time. And then I can't remember for some reason, I'm getting blocked on that prayer, but that's how that's most of the prayer. And then
right.
you end up, and you guys can look it up, but for some reason, I'm just got blocked on the whole little last part. Anyway, so once you do that, you say that you can say this prayer. And so Joe and I started to work with that all the time. If there was a problem, we would say this prayer. If I had a client, I would say this prayer. And so,
Really?
yeah, and it would clear things would clear. People would all of a sudden, that there was a disagreement Joe had with somebody for a long time, and it had to do with work, and it was becoming a really bad issue. And we did this prayer. The next day, the man that he was having this issue with called and apologized. Like it was a 10-year deal, like 10 years of no apology.
Yeah.
There were times with me when I started using that, and I was being helped. I was helping a kahuna that had been shown to come to me. I didn't know who she was. And it ends up that she was like a really amazing kahuna that would travel back and forth to Hawaii. And so she and I became friends. And there was a time where I had something that was similar, where I couldn't figure out how to fix it. I almost was going to have to leave at one point of a work relationship. And she did that. She did this kahuna, the prayers, and she asked for a clearing of all grievances. And the next day, I got the same thing, an apology out of the blue that I would have never thought would have happened. And it changed everything, and I was able to continue in that space. But that's when I was like, this works. So that's what I became. And so part of what I did from 2019 on up to today is that. And I believe that what we do, what we need to do, is we can ask for what's happened in our bodies if we have pain,
Mm.
or if we have like a reoccurring, like if you're a drug addict, well, where did that come from? Did that come from another life that you've always been a drug addict? And so we go through that. You go through time to go through all those lifetimes. And then there's teams. So this was the Ho'opono. There's a police force too. So there's this universal law that is part of this, and the universal law goes through and does this for us. You don't have to relive it. You don't
No.
have to. How many times did I go to therapy during 2000? We went to marriage counselors, and they all wanted us to just lay it all out. There was 5 different marriage counselor type people, and it was excruciating to
It
me
would be.
to keep reliving it. And then I had child sexual abuse as in my teenage years that had been buried, and that had really caused a lot of the issues. And I believe that there were spirits connected to that continued through today, or continued up until 2018, 2019, 2020, when I figured this out and got help and we cleared them. But they had continued to be part of my life, causing roadblocks, causing and destroying my life, or making things where my life would be messed up. And so this whole Ho'oponopono, we went through that. We went to them and we removed them and the issue, but it's just like it happened. They did it. It was done in the prayers. And I didn't
Right.
have to like relive it. And it just felt like freeing. And so that's what the work I went on to do. And then the God thing with God, I just feel like none of that, though, would work with this property. The Ho'oponopono and the Native American things and the different prayers that we did, the offerings, it would only work up to a certain point, literally. But when Bill Bean came in to do this deliverance and brought in his words and the God and the power and the Bible, and it knocked it out. It took it out. And we just keep that up. And that's what I think that this place needed that. Like there was a
Yeah.
accumulation of all these different energies and tribes and people, and a lot of spells cast. And you had to bring in that fire to fix that fire. You know what I mean? And I don't think that has to be in every place. It could just be that you maybe just do the Native American prayers, or maybe you just do that certain thing, and it works. But for us and our property, it showed me like, wow, okay, that that saved my life. We would have left, we were going to move, but it saved our life, it saved our property, it saved my family.
Brilliant. Absolutely spot on there. I love that. Everybody in chat room said, yeah, absolutely great. I've learned
Yeah.
and Alison just said, I have learned that if I talk to the universe, it helps me better.
Yeah. So and so I believe that the universe, I believe that there's the higher frequency of all of that. And that is that when that is the frequency, I mean, people can call it whatever they want, but I believe that the highest frequency is it's all through the universe, and the question comes up like, well, how does that work with the aliens, and how does all this work together? And you know what, in time, I think when we're all said and done, when we go and cross over, we'll really know. But if you look back at the pictures in the Bible, or pictures drawn on the Native American petroglyphs, or in your country, anywhere there are old paintings or things, they all have these symbols in every culture, with the
Yeah.
alien ships And I mean, they're all right there. So it's like there's just it's like it's always been a part of it. We just weren't acknowledging it. We didn't really know. I mean, all of it, but it's been here all the time. That they have been here all the time. And so I actually believe that there are good ones and bad ones, just like everything in this world. And I believe that a lot of them, so with the dog man and different things, I just, to me, it's like, why has nobody been able to actually catch one? Really? I mean, I know they go through time, and back in time, there's all kinds of written information and stories about how these people in the 1400s, there's actually there's reports on this way back on these wolfmen and stuff. And so, but it seems to me like the reason is because they go through these portals. I firmly believe that.
No,
I
I do.
firmly believe that there are portals and they can just go through. And I don't know. What do you think about that? You think that they're
I
good?
think, yeah, I think they go through these like a frequency.
Yeah.
If we could, it's like tuning a radio. If we were on the same frequency as them, we'd probably see them. And because we're not on the same as them, we don't see them. It's the odd time when you think, what's that up in sky? That looks like a UFO.
Yeah.
And then it's gone. Seconds.
Yeah.
There's a good friend of mine called Paul Sinclair. He writes books called Truth Proof. He's got a documentary out called Wolfland. It's on Amazon Prime. You can buy it. And it's about this northeast coast where I live. When people say, you talk about werewolves and Bigfoot, you say, don't talk a load of rubbish. Say, well, there's so many people seen this werewolf down this coast in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Somebody's seen one, believe it or not, 2 months ago, running across a field after a deer.
You saw one?
No, somebody on a
Oh, is that
train seen one
okay?
and got in touch with Paul to tell him. And she said, I sat on a train, looking out at the window. I thought, what's that deer running? And she said, this animal, like a werewolf, chasing after it in broad daylight on the morning. You
Poor
know,
deer.
what do you make of it? How they appear like that? Why can't we see them all the time? Is a good question. There's
Yeah.
some sort of frequency. Do they come out of portals? Do they survive? There's been a Black Panther scene. We don't have Black Panthers in the UK. One was seen 2 weeks ago. I've seen in 2017 crossing the road. How do they survive? I know we've got rabbits, we've got deer, we've got lots of things where they could, but they just appear and then vanish.
Yeah. 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 I love the area. I love the old country, I call it. Like where you're from, it's like there's so much history there. There's so many things that like have been there, and what it's like really um amazing, the things that are probably just, in your country. Um there was this one time I had this patient that I'd been seeing a lot in at the place I worked, which was Medicine Wheel. And she came to see me because she had gone on a trip to, I think it was in the UK. It was somewhere in there. And, oh no, I think it was in Ireland. It was in Ireland. And because she was walking around in this area, and just she felt this terrible pain similar to what you experienced. All of a
Right.
sudden she had this pain and she couldn't walk, and it was just horrifying and horrible, so she had to kind of go through the whole trip that way. But when she got out of the trip and was able to come in, she came to see me, and so she's telling me this. And so she asked, can you please see what this is? And so I'm like, okay, we'll see. So we did the prayers. I did the prayers. And then all of a sudden, what I was seeing was this little image of this little, looked like a little gnome guy, really weird looking little creature guy
Oh yeah.
that was in her foot. And that's why I'm telling her this. And I'd seen many things with other things with her. So she understood what I was saying. And I'm like, okay, so this is what I'm seeing. I drew this picture of this little creature guy. It's when they're in the body, they're literally bigger. But what it was, I was seeing something little because it's in her foot, right? But in energy form, it can expand and be bigger. But this little thing, and so it was right there. And so I did the clearing, the whole Ho'oponopono. I did all that. That was before I really. I think I was using the Lord's Prayer too at that time, but I didn't know the full effect of it. But either way, we removed it. And I saw that it had been in that area for a long time and it decided to jump on her while she was there. And so her foot immediately was healed and she went on her way and she was totally fine. The next time I saw her, she said it totally went away and she was perfectly fine. So while I was waiting afterwards, I went home that day and I started to look up. Pictures. What are pictures of gnomes, or what are pictures of this that were in that area? What was the folklore in that area? Because you have to find the key words, right?
Hmm.
Folklore, or whatever. And there it was. It was a little picture of this little thing. It was a picture of a drawing of this creature that was in Ireland folklore. And I sent her a text and I said, this, and she saw my image. She saw what I'd already drawn, right? But I saw it, there was, and I can find it. I'll see if I can find it. I'm sure I have it in my books or my
Yeah.
drawing my drawing sketch pad through the years. But there it was, an Irish. It was Ireland. I'm pretty sure in the folklore, this little creature. And so that little creature was alive and well and was there to cause trouble with her. But it was banished. It couldn't cause trouble anymore once she did the prayers and it left her. But it's amazing. So, like, whatever that was with you, like, what was that? What area was that? What happened in that area? What's the folklore there? What bit you? You know what I
I
mean?
know. Yeah. We're about come to the end of the show. We've gone over anyway. Don't matter
Oh,
because we can go as long as we want, really.
yeah.
Where can people? What day is your podcast on?
My show is on the Web Radio Network. It's on every Tuesday night, and we are live stream. It comes on at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time in America. So, and it's every Tuesday night. And it's a lot like your format. I just try to find really amazing people to talk to that we can share really cool things. And so that it's called the Mercedes Lucky Benedict Show. And then I also have my YouTube that I share a lot of things. The documentary that I'm doing is about to be really, really start showing that.
Oh,
And let's see,
brilliant!
my music is all my music. I have the old music I used to do, and now it's modified. I've been doing the videos. I've been making my own videos for the
Oh,
older music,
brilliant!
which has been fun. Oh yeah, that's another thing. So I learned how to do that during the pandemic when I wasn't working for the doctor. I learned how to do that on my own. And I always thought there'd be a documentary, but I thought somebody else would do it. But I learned how to do it and I'm really good at that stuff. So I started my own company called My Beautiful Spirit Productions. And so we
Oh,
do we do our my music, we do music videos, we do the documentary, and I just love that. I love doing that. And so that you can find if you see My Beautiful Spirit Productions, that's me, and that's because it's my spirit. I call her my beautiful spirit because I just really learned that I had this spirit, and I'm not saying beautiful just because she's beautiful or whatever. I'm just saying because it's so beautiful, the energy, the light, the
yeah,
love, the spirit that is within me. The cleaner I become, or the clearer, the brighter the spirit is that is really been with me my whole life. That's been in all these lives. and everybody has it. Your spirit.
So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Everything's under my name. So if you look up, there's a website that's my name. Facebook is a really good way to message me through, and I invite you all to please like join the Facebook or the YouTube channel. That really helps me, like everybody. So that helps, and then that's really what I do. And then I do have a Facebook page for the Mercedes Lucky Benedict show. But yeah, that's how you find me. I'm everywhere, really, in a way. You just put my name in. It's crazy, but that's how you find me. And
Oh,
sessions
wonderful.
the same. You can, if you want a session, you can do session work, and I just talk on the phone with people.
Yes. Yeah. But do you do Zoom then or Skype or something for people?
I don't, because I don't want to see you. I don't want to see the person. I
Ah,
just
right. Yeah, I'm
their
with you. Yeah.
yeah, it's like weird. Like in person to person, it's one thing, but like I found that on the phone, if I just don't see them and I just listen to their voice, we can record the session. We can do it on Zoom, and just I just don't want to see the visual of a person while I'm
Yeah.
trying to see the other
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
true.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's how it works with me, and I try to keep it that way because it's makes a clearer channel for me. So yeah, anything.
Thank you.
I'm here, and we're gonna have you on the show too.
Yes,
Very
I'll come on your show. Yeah. No
yeah.
problem. We'll sort that out. Yes, so thank you again. It's been
Thank you.
wonderful having you on the show. Everybody in the chat room's enjoyed it.
Yay. Thank you so much for people being on the chat. That's really great. I appreciate the questions. I
Yes.
appreciate all of this. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, everybody. And
Oh,
prayers
thank
and
you.
blessings to everybody that's about to see this or will see this in the future. I think Bob agrees with me. We just send out total light and love to everybody.
Yeah. And Alice is just saying, go on her show, Bob. I will do. I'll
There's some
sort something
really
out
cool
with that.
people. I've interviewed some really amazing people. Um, it's just been a just a amazing
I,
how
I'd like,
how that
I
all
like,
works.
I'd like to talk about Men in Blacks. I've had a visit from Men in Black.
Okay.
I'll talk
Oh,
about that
Men
on
in
the show.
Black. Men in
Yes,
Black.
I've had a visit from them.
Oh,
2017.
oh, that sounds very
Yeah,
interesting.
Ray. Yeah. But I'll tell you about it on your show.
Okay, cool. I love that. I'll make you a little promo and put some Men in Black in it.
Yes, wonderful. That sounds absolutely great. Anyway, you take care. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.
And I'll keep in touch with you.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'll see everybody in the other side.